Hey everyone, this is question 1 of Spring 2023 Exam 2, and let's get over with this exam ASAP. Alright, so we're given this piece of code right here, and we're also given this big chunky thing, which is called apparently customers.txt. And I'm gonna actually switch it into dark mode so that we can actually see better. And also dark mode seems pretty cool. And so we're given this code and customers.txt, and actually for you guys in the exam, it will actually be in the format that kind of looks like this, which is the only difference between this and the one on the site is that it's just contained in a wider box, I guess. That's the only difference, but it is the same content, right? And so the first two paragraphs in this question kind of just talk about some random story, and it gives us this customers.txt file. And then this paragraph actually tells us something very, very crucial about understanding what we're going to be dealing with in this exam, which is telling us what this txt file represents. And so we learned that customers.txt is every line in the file is a customer, is a data of a customer stored as 4 name value pairs separated by a comma. So every line, right? Every line, this line is going to be representing a customer and the customer's data. And then it's going to have the name value pair. So the customer's type is subscribed. The customer's age is 43. Customer's first name is Barney, etc. And then it's going to do that for this line. It's going to do that for this line. And so every line represents a customer and his attributes, which is super interesting. And then it kind of tells us additional information saying the pairs are kind of shuffled, and then there's extra space characters all over the place. So we learned that basically the space characters are kind of insignificant. They don't really play a role, but the commas are the things that should be separating the individual name value pairs. So we learned that from this paragraph. And then this paragraph kind of tells us very important information about what the code does above, right? And it basically says our task is to understand the code base. And then the first function that we see, customer data function, which we see right here, customer data, which basically transform a string of data which is found in the customer's file. So the string is going to be some sort of customers.txt, right? And then it returns a dictionary with the respective customer attributes. So what this is going to do is it's going to take customers.txt, it seems like, the string of customers.txt, and it's going to store each attribute inside of a dictionary, so that one customer has one dictionary containing all these attributes. Right, so that's very important to know, and this also tells us a lot of things about Andy, and he claims that code base and general stuff, but it doesn't matter. And then at the end, this question, this is a question that's particular to question number 1, which is asking whether we can replace the argument for the split function in line 2 with the comma and a plus. What this represents is a comma and a space character instead of the current argument in the split function in line 2, which is just a regular comma. So the question number 1 is asking whether we can do, instead of a comma, just have a space in here, and will this operate in the same way, right? So let's have a look and see if this will be logically correct. All right, so let's have a look at what the code is doing. So we have the function called customer data, and then the input is data. And as we learned from this paragraph, data is going to be a string of customer attributes, right? So it's going to be some sort of string that is coming from customers.txt. So we can assume that there's another function that is kind of reading this customers.txt file and then making it a string and then inputting it in the customer data function, right? And so we have that, and then data is going to be splitted by comma, and then it's going to be um, stored in data list. And so it's really crucial to understand what this split function does, because it's used multiple times, and it is kind of the most important function in kind of operating customer data function, right? And so split basically has two elements, which is first, the thing that comes before the function, right? What split is operating on, and then it also has the argument that is going to be splitting the data by, right? So for the split function, this has to be a string. And you know what? I'm going to pull up a slide deck that basically describes the split function in more detail. So this is how split works. As you can see, there's a split function on the right, and we have some sort of a string on the left. And split function only works on strings, whether that's literally a string, or a variable that contains a string. And in this example, we have a literal like string. And we're splitting, right? And so in this example, we have a string called leaders and best, and then we are splitting by E, right? And so in our example, in our question, we're splitting by the comma, but in this example, we're splitting by the E. And so what the split function does is it finds all the E's, and then it basically strikes them out, and then all the values that you get from the striked out E's, you store it as individual values in a list. And so an output of a split function is going to be a list containing all the values that is splitted by the input of the split. And so this is quite important concept to know if you're trying to understand this code and what it's doing, the customer data function, right? And so the line 2, what it basically does is it splits the data by comma, and then it stores it into a variable called data list. And so if we assume that, for example, this is basically this is going to be data, like we're going to put this piece of string into data. If we assume that, then what it's basically going to do is it's going to look for every comma, because that was what's passed into the split function, right? It's going to look for every comma, and it's going to split by that, right? It's going to split by that, and it's going to create a list that contains type subscribed, age 43, first name Barney, and etc. for the string that's coming from customers.txt, right? That is what it's going to do. Now, the question asks if it can do this, right? Can it be comma and a space? And will it still function the same way? And will data list still be able to store these name value pairs, which is type subscribed, age 43, first name Barney? And will it be able to store that like separately? That is what it's asking. And so let's run through that one more time, instead this time with a comma and a space. So let's look for every comma and a space, and then split by that. So let's have a look. Comma, space. So this example actually seems like it works. It's going to take this as the first element. Let's look at the second comma and a space, and it seems like there's a comma, but there's no space. So it's actually going to skip over that. This comma does not have a space either, so it's not going to split, and it's going to skip over that. This comma, again, does not have a space. The next comma that actually has a space is going to be this, right? And it's going to be this. And so what this is basically going to do is, this is going to be the first element, but the second element is going to be all the way containing all of this, right? Because this is the first comma that has a space character afterwards. And so that is very functionally different to what we had before. Even if we add such a minimal detail of just adding a space after the comma, we have faced the consequence of just storing just completely different things in the data list. And then obviously, this is going to impact all the code that is under here because data list is going to be used in the for loop here. And it seems like it's going to do some operations there. So we find out that replacing this replacement is not going to be good. And we actually just want the comma. And so let's actually have a look at the answer choices. And so first of all, we can strike out the yes, right? Because we found out that that is not a viable option. So let's have a look at the no options. So A says, no, doing so will not split a customer entry properly, right? And this, what it seems like, the only difference between A and C is this part right here. So all the information is same. No, doing so will not split a customer something properly. And the only difference between A and C is these two. A says entry, C says string. Now let's look at what A is trying to refer to. A says it's going to be not splitting the entry properly. But as you can see in this code, entry is already splitted by this. And what A says is it's not going to split the entry properly, which sounds like it's going to be referring to this because this is what actually splits the entry, right? Entry represents already splitted value of this, but it doesn't, A says it's not going to split entry properly. And this is not something that is represented by this code or for this change. So we can cross A out, right? And then C says, no, doing so will not split a customer string properly. And this, of course, is the correct answer because we saw that data represents some sort of a customer string, some sort of a subset of customers.txt that is converted into a string format. And so we saw that data represents that, and data wasn't splitted properly. And so the answer is going to be C, because doing so will not split a customer string properly, not an entry or anything else. So let's try to select answer C, and let's submit it. And C indeed is the answer. And so that is kind of what it's going to do. Before we kind of move on to question number 2, I'm actually going to run through what this program does. If you guys are interested, if you already feel like you know what you're going to do, then feel free to skip this and do other questions. But I'm just going to explain what this program does. So basically it splits by those and gets those name value pairs, right? So instead of it's not this anymore, it's just going to be the regular comma. So it's just going to get type subscriptions. It's going to get age 43, first name Barney, and things like that. That's what this is going to do. It initializes a dictionary, and then it says for entry in data list. And so for entry represents this and this and this, right? So every iteration it's going to shift over by 1, and it's going to represent that name value pair. And then for entry in data list, it's going to split that entry again. So it's going to split this entry by this colon right here, right? So it's going to split this, right? And so now there's another array or list that has type, and I'm just going to shorten this, and then subscription, right? So it's going to create another list because it's splitting again, right? For every iteration of the for loop. So it's going to go every single iteration, and it's going to create a list. This line is going to create a list, and then it's going to store inside key and value. So the first value of the list is going to point to the key. Second is going to point to the value, right? And so that is what this is going to do. Maybe I should point it right here, right? It's going to be key and value. So type is going to be key, subscribe is going to be value. I'm just going to erase this for a little bit. So we know what key and value represents. Now, key is going to be stripped, and so is value going to be stripped, and it's going to be updated, and it's going to update that key and value variable. And so what strip function does is strip basically strips any space characters, any spaces before or after a string. And so if the string is this right here, which is space, 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 Leslie, space, 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 right? It basically strips these spaces left and right of the string. And so you will only get Leslie after stripping. And so that's what the strip does. Now, what it doesn't do is if the key, for example, was this, right? If the key was this, for example, this whole phrase, strip won't take out the spaces in between the string. It will only take it out left and right of the string. So that's kind of what the strip function does. And so as we can see, key and value is basically stripped and updated. So what this is going to be containing is what key and value used to be is key used to be this, which is type and space, and then value used to be space and subscribe, but now key and value is going to only contain type and subscribe because it's stripping this because it's left and right of the key. And then it's stored inside of a dictionary as an actual key value pair. And so if you recall, basically dictionaries operate on key value pairs, very poor curly braces, but it has the key and value kind of data type where you basically initialize the key value pair in this way in a bracket notation where you have the dictionary and then you have the key and then you have the value in this way. And then so basically it returns that after the for loop, and you can assume that after iterating through all of these name value types, it stores all these name value types as a dictionary format and then returns it if you do input a string. And so that's what the program does. And so I hope that was kind of a comprehensive explanation in what the program does. And I hope that was not too long. But yeah, let's move on to the next question. Hey everyone, this is question 2 of Spring 2023 Exam 2, and let's get on with it. And so question 1, basically we went over what this code does in detail and what this txt file is and how it operates in relation to this code. And so if you think that you kind of are unsure about what this program does for every single line, then I'd advise to look at the solution for question number 1 to understand completely. Now, for question number 2, again, this part, the txt file, and this part is all the same. The only difference is this question right here. And the question asks, the strip function called in line 7 and 8 removes space characters, tabs, and new line characters from left and right side of the respective strings. And so basically it is kind of like a true and false kind of question, asking what is the strip function doing in line 7 and 8. And so this is going to be kind of easy because in question 1 we identified what this strip function does to the key value pairs that existed within our code. And so strip basically, to reiterate, removes any kind of string, no matter how long the string value is. It will remove all the string that is surrounded by each of the character things. It will remove it left and right. And so if key, for example, was Leslie, it will remove, actually, if the key was space, 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 Leslie, space, 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 then if we run this, if we run line 7, on this value right here, key will only contain Leslie because it will strip the spaces in front and back of Leslie or the key, right? And so Andy says strip function is going to remove space characters, tabs, and new line characters from left and right side of the respective strings. And since we talked about that in question 1, we can answer this question quite easily. And so answer choice A says no, in only remove tabs. It only removes tabs and new line characters from a string. And so we know that that is not true because it also removes spaces, so A is not correct. B says yes, because it removes these characters entirely from a string. So this is actually not going to be true. And the reason for that is strip will only strip the surrounding spaces or tabs or new line characters, right? So for example, if the key was this, right? If the key was first name colon space Janet, then when key.strip is ran, it's going to be stripping this space after this key, and all this space that is preceding this key, but it is not going to remove what is in the middle, right? Because it's stripping left and right, but not in the middle. And B says it removes these characters entirely from a string, which is more similar to replace, the replace function. So B is not true. And then C says yes, it removes the mentioned characters as described. So we know that this is the answer choice, correct answer choice. And then D says no, it removes space characters from left and right sides of a string. And so D is almost correct, but C is the more correct answer because it removes all of the space, the tabs, and the new line characters. And so C is the correct answer. There we go. Moving on to the next question. Hey everyone, this is question 3 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. And let's get over with this question. All right, so like the last 2 questions, the code is the same and the customers.txt is the same, and this explanation/passage is the same, except the last question. And so let's have a look. And so this question basically is asking, can we use a set to store the customer's attributes instead of what we currently have, which is data dict or a dictionary, right? So it is asking, can we use a set instead of a dictionary? So I think this question is pretty interesting because it will kind of test your knowledge on knowing whether you know the difference between a dictionary or a set. And so what a dictionary is it has curly braces and it has key value pairs, right? So this is key and then this is value. And so if you search by the key, then you will get the return value of the value, right? So it's a key value pair. They are buddies and they're paired with each other. And so as we kind of explored in question 1, we saw that this was the key and this was the value. And so I'm just going to annotate this right here. We have K and we have V. I hope it's not too difficult to see. But we have this key value pair here, and we have key value, and etc. Or, oops, maybe not that. Sorry, do it again. Key and then value, because remember, it was separated by the colon. It was first separated by the comma, but second, it was separated by the colon. And then it's key, value, and then it's stored in the massive dictionary. Now, sets work a little bit different to dictionaries in that it still has the curly braces, right? Or it is at least represented as curly braces. When you're declaring it though, you would use set like this. If you declare it with the curly braces, it will automatically think as a dictionary. So Python, if you instead of use dict and then this right here, instead of using dict, if you use the curly braces, empty curly braces, and assign it to here, it will actually be registered as dictionary and not a set. And so that's kind of one important thing. Hey everyone, this is question 3 of Spring 2023 Exam 2, and let's get on with the question. All right, so we have the same code right here that we've been seeing for the past 2 questions, and then we have customers.txt, obviously, customers.txt, and then we are given the same explanation or whatever information until this, which is the question that is different for question 3. And this is basically asking whether we can use a set to store the customer's attributes. Oops, I don't know why. A set to store the customer's attributes instead of what we currently have, which is returning data dict, and data dict is a dictionary. So instead of a dictionary, can we use a set? And so this is a very interesting question, and it kind of tests your knowledge on the difference between dictionaries and sets. And so as we talked about and as we have been seeing in question 1 and maybe 2, is that dictionaries are key value pairs, right? So we have a key and we have a value. And so key could be like a string or a number, or it has to be immutable, which means that something that can't change type, so it can't be a list. But keys are basically, it can be numbers, it can be strings and things like that. And then we have value, and value could be literally anything. It doesn't matter, immutable or mutable, doesn't matter. And so we have key value pairs, and they are basically buddies. When key is called, value is returned, but not the other way around, right? So key is what is called, and then the value gets returned. And so in the example in question 1 that we saw when we went through what this code does, we basically saw that this was the key and this was the value. And so key and value right here, right? Because it was separated by this colon. And so it was key value, and then this was key, and then this was value, and so on, right? Key, value, right? And so we saw that's what this code did in question 1. And so basically it was a big dictionary consisting of basically type, subscribed, age, 43, first name, Barney, and things like that, right? And this question is asking, can we replace this functionality with a set? So this is a dict, which is short for dictionary. And then we have a set, which is a little bit different. Right? So set still has the curly braces and is still represented as curly braces. But something that is important to know is that a set is initialized like this, right? And so a dictionary can be either declared with dict function, or it can be with this, right? Oh, with the curly braces. This is a terrible curly braces. But it can be declared with an empty curly braces, or it can be declared with dict. But a set can only be, an empty set can only be declared like this, right? And so that's the first difference, I guess. But then what set basically are is instead of the key value pairs, a set is basically by itself, right? And so I'll just represent this as S1, S2. And so sets are by themselves. They don't have two values. And sets and dictionary, the common things are that everything is unique. So dictionaries have to have unique keys, and sets have to have unique values within the set. And so S1, S2 is all unique. It has to be unique. And for dictionaries, K is all unique. V doesn't matter, but K has to be all unique. So it's similar in that they all have to be unique. It's also similar in that they're not sorted in any order, right? And so sets will actually have no order in them, and dictionaries will not have an index that is ordered by them. And so you can't call a dictionary by an order, and you can't call a set by some sort of an index or an order. You can actually use a for loop to iterate through, but you can't do that with a index, right? It has to be some sort of a key or some sort of a value. And so that's the biggest difference between those two. And if you can see already, like what this data kind of requires you to do is have those key value pairs, because we need to have type subscribed. If we end up storing this in a set, it will be type and then subscribed and then age and 43, and they'll be all separate elements. And then we don't know the relationship between whether type is subscribed or whether type is 43 or whether type is Barney. This makes sure that the key value pair is maintained and it is kept within the data type. But as you can see in a set, you don't really get that. You just get random, unique, just ramble of data, right? And so you can see that sets don't particularly work for this code. And so, so we can cross out answer choice A and answer choice C because, oh wait, no, never mind. We'll have to be crossing out B and D actually, because this is asking, can we use a set instead of a dictionary? So we cross out B and D, right? Because B and D is basically saying yes, thumbs up to the set. But as you can see, like we can't do that because it will just store everything, but in a very messy way. A and D says no, since sets do not preserve the ordering of the data. And then C says no, since each customer's value has an associated key and we need to store both. And so this is more of the accurate answer because it is saying that each value has a key and we need to store both of them in order to store that relationship that each of them has. A is saying since sets do not preserve ordering of that data. We talked about dictionaries and sets don't have indexes and the order doesn't really matter. All it matters is that key to value pairs, and that is what C is saying. And A is just talking about the order, but order does not matter in this case. And so the answer is C, and let's have a check. And it is correct. And so let's move on to the next question. I hope that explanation was good, but let's move. Hi everyone, this is question 4 of Spring 2023 Exam 2, and let's get on with it. And so this question, again, same question, or same code, and same information, same TXT file, same information, and then the only thing that is different is the question itself. If you're kind of confused about the general code or general question, like general information itself, then I suggest kind of check out question 1, 2, and 3. They have a more general overview of the code. But this question specifically asks, can line 7 to 9 be replaced with this right here? Right, so it is asking line 7 to 9, can this be replaced with this? Right, and so let's first kind of go over what this code does. And so we learned that entry, what entry represented in the for loop is this, right? Oops, is this, because it was splitted by the comma. First iteration, it will be this. Second iteration, it will be this, right? Third iteration, it will be first name Barney, etc. And that is because we split it by the comma, stored it in a giant list, and then we're iterating through that giant list. And so first iteration, second iteration, third, fourth, whatever, right? And then I'm going to erase this right here because it's hard to see. And then we learned that what represents key and value is the splitting of the entry with the colon. And so first iteration, it was this. And what the key and the value variable represents in the first iteration is type and subscribed, because it is splitting by the colon now. So it's first split by the comma, and then now it's splitting by the colon. And so it is type and subscribed. And so that is what key and value is. Now it is not just type, but it's also type leading up to the space that is after the type, right? Because it's only split by the colon. And then it's before the subscribed, the space before it, and it contains everything, right? And so as you can see, there is space between these, and these are contained in the key and value as well. These are not removed until we call strip. Strip basically removes all the spaces that is not between each of the keys and values, right? And so it basically removes spaces left and right, tabs, spaces, new lines, and things like that. And so that's what keys and values did. And then it stores the key and value pair within the dictionary. This question is asking whether we can reduce the 3 lines of code to going like this, which is data_dict key.strip equals value.strip. And so instead of stripping and then storing in this way, so it's a stripped value of storing it this way, we're just going to strip it right here, right? That is what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of these lines and then strip inside here instead of doing it on the separate lines. That is what is basically going on. Key.strip within the data dictionary and then equals value.strip. Is he correct? And the answer is going to be yes, because if you are trying to store anything in a dictionary, and if you're trying to have a key, you have these brackets, right? But you can do any kind of operation within this bracket. Anything can go on. You can call any function. This can even be a function that is not part of the Python built-in functions, right? So you can create a function and do it, and it will basically work. And same goes for this too. It will run this first, and then it'll execute everything. So it doesn't matter if you do it before and then set the updated value of the key value pairs, or if you just update the value on the spot, on the line, do it, and then store the key value pairs. It doesn't matter, except this way you probably make the code look a little bit cleaner. But reducing 3 lines to 1 versus making the code look cleaner, it's debatable. It's a preference kind of thing, I think. And so the answer is going to be yes, because anything can go on inside these brackets and things like that. And so that's the answer. And the answer is yes, indeed. So let's move on to the next one. Hey everyone, this is question 5 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. And again, same deal here, same code, same TXT file, same kind of information. The only thing that is different is this question right here. So if you want a more general explanation of what this code does, look at question 1's explanation. But this question basically asks, which of these answer choices can we use to replace this code right here? And which one makes sense? So just before we begin, do not ever write code this way, because this is not readable for anybody even including yourself. Like the point of code is to make it readable so that other people can edit and things like that. But this does exactly not that. And this basically seems like it is only trying to focus on reducing how many lines of code it has. So don't ever do this, okay? All right, let's move on with the question. Enough of ranting. With these questions, what I like to do is notice the difference, notice the first differences, which I see this, right? That's the first difference that I see among each of the questions, and do some sort of like process of elimination so that we don't have to study all 4 of these codes. And we can start kind of filtering the wrong answers out. And so the first difference I see is the argument in the split functions. And so this one has colon, comma, but this one has comma, colon, and then comma, colon, colon, comma, right? A little bit of a tongue twister there. Okay, so let's look at what A is trying to do. So we have this entries variable. Entries is a list, and inside that list, every element is going to be entry.split, comma, for entry in data.split, colon. Now this looks very, very hectic, so I'll be breaking this down. Basically one function at a time, right? And so this is something called a list comprehension, and they basically compacts the for loop inside a list so that we can have a element, all the elements in the list could be generated by the for loop inside the list. And so that is a little bit confusing. So have a slide kind of prepared for that. And so this is list comprehension. And basically you have this iterable, right? You have the for loop, and then you have the iterating list. And so this is a normal syntax for the for loop, as you can see. It's for x in this kind of list, right? We've all seen that. But we have this at the front. And this is basically saying for x in this list, perform this operation and store it as each element in the list. And so basically what this list comprehension is going to do is it's going to take 1, and then it's going to take 1 to the power of 2, and then store it as the 0th element in the list. And then it's going to take 2 to the power of 2 and store it as index 1 of the list, right? That is what it's going to do. For every value in the list, it's going to iterate through, and it's going to perform this and then store it in the larger list. There's actually a mistake in that there should be a yellow bracket right here, but I don't know, that's a little mistake right there. But it's going to store exactly that. It's going to store the performed expression and then store it as each of the values. So it's going to basically be 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25 stored in the new yellow list. That is list comprehension. It makes the code shorter, makes it ridiculously hard to read, right? And so this is basically saying for entry in data.split colon. And so we've seen this, right? For entry in data list. And what does data list represent? Data list is something that is splitted by the comma. And as you can see here, this is data list, which is supposed to represent this right here. Data list.split is not separated by the comma like here, right? This is basically just getting this and then substituting it right here, right? Instead of splitting by the comma, it's splitting by the colon. So A is wrong already, which is really nice. Bye-bye, A. And also C is wrong because it does the same thing, right? This is supposed to represent data list, and data list is splitted by the comma instead of colon. And so already A and C, bye-bye. That's really good. And so let's see what entries represents, because we now have seen that A and C is canceled out, and now we probably need to go a little bit further. And so let's kind of zoom in. And so first, this represents data list. And so for entry in data list, which what we see already over here, for entry in data list, do entry.split colon, right? And then it's stored in entries. So entries is going to be basically in this code, it's stored as key and value, but in this code, entries is going to be a list. Entries is going to be a list, and it's going to contain key value, key value, key value, right? So it's not going to be a dictionary, but it's going to be key value, key value, key value of a list. So another list. So entries is another list, which is kind of interesting, right? Which is a little different to the original code, but I'm sure this line of code will take care of that logic. Now, the third line says return field 0 dot strip field 1 dot strip for field in entries. Again, list comprehension. So for field in entries, so since we know that entries is key value, right? And so for field in entries, we're going to perform this right here, which is the expression in the list comprehension. The expression is field 0.strip is the key, and field 1.strip is the value. That's what this code seems like it is doing, right? And so the only difference between B and D seems like it's switched around, which is 1 and 0 versus 0 and 1. And so it is going to be iterating through entries, which I talked about last time, right? It was key value, key value, key value. And then what it's trying to do is actually store it in a dictionary. So there's curly braces right here. And it's trying to store it into a dictionary, which is taking either the first item as the key and the second item as the value, or second item as the key and first item as the value. And we already can tell B is the correct answer because the ordering of entries is key, value, and etc. There's going to be a bunch of other ones, right? And then what this D is basically doing is assigning this here, and then this is supposed to be key, and this is supposed to be value because there's a comma right here, right? And this is being assigned to the value spot. And so it will be flipped other way around, which is not what we want. And so even though this code seems super intimidating, that's the word, we broke it down, and with process of elimination, we found B to be the answer. And if we submit, it should actually be D, but yeah, I think the site got it wrong. So we will fix that as soon as possible. Hi everyone, this is question 6 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. And we have new code, which is pretty exciting. And so I'm going to be explaining line by line what this code does. And before we kind of tackle this question, I'll be going into in-depth about what this does so that we can understand it clearly. And so we have a function called read customers data. And this is a function with no arguments, so it can be just called by itself. And when that function is called, it declares a list called customers. And then what it tries to do is it tries to do some file IO. And then so it opens customers.txt in read mode. And basically it opens it and then it iterates it with this for loop. So for every line in file, very intuitive, for every line in file, it tries to do customers.append customer data line. And so in the customers list, it tries to append the return value of customer data called with the argument of line. And if you remember, customer data is a function that we went over, right? Um, and so what did customer data do? It takes in data, which is a string because it basically splits it. It first splits by the commas, right? It first splits by the commas, and then what we have is something that looks like this. And then here we split by the colon. And so we have type and subscribe as key and value, right? And then we store it in a dictionary as key value pairs. So it will return a dictionary of type subscribed, age 43, first name Barney, for that specific data. And this function, basically, that data is line, right? So for every line, it will return a dictionary, which is a key value pair of that line, of every line in customers.txt. So however many lines that are in this customers.txt, there'll be that number of dictionaries in the customers list. And so we kind of found out what this code does, which is super interesting. There'll be a bunch of dictionaries with key value pairs inside of them in the customers list. And so basically, one dictionary, every dictionary will represent an attribute of a customer. So if you have a look, this is one line, right? And this customer is subscribed, is 43, his name is Barney, ID is 313, and last name is Lewis, right? Second line, similar stuff, right? And so every dictionary within the customers will represent one customer. And then customers is a list of customer, right? So interesting. This question asks, we can also reduce the length of this function because files, okay? That's a lot of information. So this is basically asking the same question as question 5 and is saying which is a valid form of updating this code to make it shorter, but also writing the code in a messier way, which is always bad for us. But again, we will approach this problem like question 5 by doing some process of elimination. And so the first thing that I see that is different for each of the questions is this stuff right here, which is WRRW. And W means write mode. And although we are technically inputting new information into the customers list, we're not writing to the customers.txt. And so write mode is wrong. We're reading from the customers.txt. Write mode only applies when you're inputting information that we calculate from whatever is in here to customers.txt, but we're not changing the contents of customers.txt. We're using the customers.txt to get some value and then storing it in our own data type, which is customers list, right? And so we can already kind of eliminate A and D, which is super sweet. Just got to look at B and C now. And so B and C, the only difference it seems like is this right here, right? And so that seems like the biggest difference. And the answer seems super obvious. And the answer in this case will be C because as we have seen, customer data takes in line instead of the entire file, right? And so this answer C is the closest answer that is to the original code. And so it automatically makes the answer C. Now, I will go over this line by line unless you're curious. But with process of elimination in like 3 seconds, we've already solved this problem, which is super awesome. But basically how this function is condensed in question C is basically with the same concept, which is list comprehension. And so I've kind of went over this in question 5. If you're unsure of list comprehension, look at question 5 video. But this is basically saying the same for loop. So for loop is the same, right? The for loop is normal for line in file, right? Which is for line in file. But this is the value that is going to be representing each of the element in the list that is surrounding this expression, right? So this is the expression that is going to be that is basically going to represent each of the elements within the list. And then we saw that customers data and line basically returns a dictionary for each customer. And we want to do line instead of file because file is going to input the entire file into the data, and basically it's not going to differentiate between different customers, but it's going to input the entire data, and so it's going to return only one dictionary if there will be no errors, and so C is the correct answer in this case. Yeah, so actually the site changed the orders as I switch them back and forth from question 5 and 6, and so this time D is actually the correct choice here, and that is because we had the remember read and then customer data line instead of the write, which is wrong, and then write is wrong, and then this one customer data file is wrong, and so it kind of switched the order of the answer choices, and I got this question wrong, but yeah, this is the correct answer. Hi everyone, this is question 7, and question 7 contains code that is kind of updated from question 6, and so we talked about how the code works, how this code works in question 6, but question 7 is a slightly modified version. So let's have a look. It is has the same customers list, and then it has the same opening customers.txt in read mode as file, and then it has the for line and file, whatever. It appends basically the return value of this into the customers, and it is going to be customers will basically be containing a bunch of dictionaries, which represents one customer. And then the updated version is right here, file.write string customers.sort. Now, none of this matters because write is not available in read mode. And so this is the kind of the key point for this question, which is it got opened in read mode, and then it is basically trying to write. And so immediately we know that this will not work, unfortunately, and we can submit this. And there we go. Pretty easy question, but yeah, we broke it. Hi everyone, this is question 8 of Spring 2023 exam 2, and we have new code, and it looks like it's object-oriented programming stuff, as you can see with the class, right? And so this question is basically asking, someone has been careless or something, and they accidentally set every customer as golden customer instead of differentiating between actual golden customers versus regular customers. So I'm assuming golden customer is like some VIP person or something that is only for specific types of customers. But in this case, it seems like Andy's wife or something set everyone as golden customers, which is not good because, as you can see, golden customers get bonus and stuff, which we shouldn't be giving it to like normal people. That's not good. And so Andy's wife's argument is that since it uses the superclass of it uses super, right? So as you can see, golden customer is a child of the normal customer, right? And so it inherits all the attributes from the parent class because it uses the super, right? It inherits all these things. So this is a child class, and this is a kind of a parent class that basically you inherit all these attributes into the child class. Now, the problem with setting everyone as golden customer is golden customer is differentiated by the self dot bonus. So golden customer will have all the same attributes as a normal customer, plus it will have self dot bonus. And depending on your store, if you don't want normal customers to have the bonus, this might be a bad strategy. But I guess this is kind of testing you on how inheritance works and how parent class and child class kind of works and stuff. But the answer will be simply no. But this is a kind of interesting object-oriented programming code. So yeah, interesting stuff. That's interesting that the answer is actually yes, and I've just checked the practice test, and the answer is yes on that too. So I'm not sure if the answer on the practice test is wrong, or you're supposed to interpret this question as will golden customer have all the same attributes as the normal customer? I don't know if you should interpret that way as if you can versus if you should. And if you can is the question, then obviously you can, and this should work. But I don't know about if you should, because everyone will get the bonus. But yeah, this is an interesting one. So yeah, on to the. Hey everyone, this is question 9 of Spring 2023 exam 2, and let's have a look. And so this code is basically a reduced version of question 8. So it is a reduced version of this constructor specifically. This constructor basically takes a customer dictionary, which is a dictionary that represents one customer that has all these fields, that it has all these keys. So it has a key of first name, last name, age, ID, type, and then it basically adds something that doesn't exist within the customer dictionary, which is balance, as 0, and then it assigns it to the customer object. And we are basically trying to reduce this. And then this code, what it does is basically take the customer dictionary, and then it assigns it to self.attributes. And then within the self.attribute, it tries to edit the self.attributes to having a balance key. And then it assigns 0 to the balance key within the attributes dictionary. And so this is an interesting question. Now, an important thing to know is that for mutable objects in Python, which is mutable being the contents are changeable. So whether it's a dictionary or a list or things like that, whatever is mutable, when you assign it to something, it won't create a copy of it and then assign it to here, but it will actually assign the address of the dictionary and then assign it to this, which is meaning that basically self.attributes is a dictionary, customer dictionary is a dictionary, and they basically share the same dictionary. And so if you have a dictionary and this is customer.dictionary, and then if you set it to attributes, they will point to the same thing instead of creating another dictionary just for attributes, right? This is not correct, right? Not correct. And it won't create a copy for self attributes, but they will share the same dictionary. So whatever changes that you make in self.attributes, it will make to the customer dictionary, and this will be changed as well. And so they're basically the same thing. And so let's keep that in mind while we look at the answer choices. Whoops, that looks ugly. There we go. All right. So A says correct. The customer copies the content from the given dictionaries to the objects created using the customer class. We literally just talked about this. A is incorrect because it does not copy, but it basically shares the same dictionary. And so it's kind of sharing the address in a lower level explanation. B says wrong. Balance is not a key in a customer's dictionary, so line 5 will cause an error. Well, that is not necessarily true because if you know how dictionaries work and the bracket notation, how that works, if balance doesn't exist, it will create a new key called balance and then assign the value of 0 to the balance. But if it does exist, it will simply update it. So it will not cause any type of error. And so B is wrong. And then C says wrong. The constructor copies address and memory of the given customer dictionary, but does not copy its actual content. So a change in dictionary will affect the correctness of the respective object's data. And this says exactly what I've talked about, which is that if you make changes to self.attributes, it will make changes to customers dict because they share the same dictionary. And this question is saying you don't want to change the integrity of the data. Basically, you don't want to adjust the data because you want to keep it in its normal form, in its pure form. We don't want to make adjustment to it ourselves. And so C is saying exactly that. Right, and then D is saying correct by adding the balance and other attributes keys in the dictionary. The correctness of the object's data is not compromised as intended with the original constructor. And so this is wrong because we know customer's dictionary is compromised in this case. And so C is the correct answer. And if we have a check, let's have a check. And there we go. Most of you actually got this right, which is really great to see. All right, on to the next. Hey everyone, this is question 10 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. And let's have a look at this new code that we got, brand new code. It looks very complicated, but we will break this down step by step. And so we are given this function called build customers. A new list is initialized called C, and then customers is read customers data. And so if we remember from question 6, read customers data is this function where it opens the txt file in read mode, and for every line it inputs it into customer data. And we remember the customer data is a dictionary containing the key value pairs of the attributes for a customer, right? And so it returns a dictionary and then it appends a bunch of dictionaries to a list called customers, and then it returns that list. And then that return value will be assigned again to a variable called customer. So basically, this will be, again, a list containing a bunch of dictionaries, and that those dictionaries represent each customer. And inside those dictionaries, there's each of those customers' attributes. God, that was a lot. All right. So basically, customers is that list. And then bonuses is the return value of get bonuses length of customers. And we're given that get bonuses is basically a list that is organized, that is ordered in the same order as how the customers list is formed. And it basically creates a list of the bonuses for each of the customers. And so the length for customers array, customers list, and bonuses list is going to be the same. And at the 0th index, there's going to be customer 0. And at the 0th index, there's going to be the bonus for customer 0, right? So that's what's going to happen. And then there's I equals 0. And then we have four customer dict in customers. Within customers, customer dict represents each individual dictionary. And then for that dictionary, it is c.append golden customer dict, and bonuses I. And so this is basically what this is doing is it's creating a golden customer object, right? As we've seen in question 8, right? Golden customer basically takes in the customer dict and the bonus when it's being initialized, right? The constructor is customer dict, get dict and the bonus, and so it is creating those golden customer objects, and then it's appending it to the list called C. So C is basically going to contain the objects, each golden customer objects within it, and then it is basically going to increment I for some reason. And the reason why I is incremented by 1 is because we're using I as an index for bonuses, right? If we want to get the correct value at the correct index for the bonuses and make it match up with the customers, we have to have some sort of a variable, and that's where I is used for the bonuses to get the right bonuses for the right person. And then this question is asking, can we use recycled build customers instead of build customers? And so again, why just use this original code that you had? But we have to create a new function and see if it works. Okay, no problem. And so it seems like this logic is the same. So all the way up to this point is the same as I see. And then the only thing that is different is the for loop. And this time, instead of iterating by each customer dict, it is iterating by the range of length of customers. So he's using the I as the counter. Instead of having an I that is separate to the bonuses, it's using I both for customers and bonuses. And in this case, it actually seems like this code is actually quite good. And that is because when you iterate through customers, which is a list containing a bunch of dictionaries, right? And when you're iterating both customers and bonuses at the index of I, which they both contain the same order of the customers, right? It is basically going to get a certain customer at the index of I, and it is going to get the customer's bonus at the index of I. And it is going to create the golden customer using those two fields, and then it is going to append to the list of big C. And so this function actually seems perfect. And if not perfect, it actually seems better than this function, because this is not having two separate, counters, two different variables, but it kind of unifies the thing together. So it actually seems really nice. Good job, Andy. And so A says yes, because both customers and bonuses are lists, and bonuses are per customers as they are found in the file. So A seems like the correct choice here. It is saying that they're both lists and bonuses will be in the same order as the customer's list. And so sharing that I is going to be okay. B says yes, because the implementation for the for loop of the original function does not guarantee the correct order of the customers with respect to list of bonuses. This is wrong. It will guarantee the same order, the correct order for the bonuses and customer dictionary, because the question literally told us that the order for these two are going to be the same. And I is going to be incremented by 1 starting from 0. And so this is going to be wrong. C says no, the customer order given by for customer dict and customer is not the same as for I in range, length, and customer. So question C's, this statement is actually correct, because it's technically not the same thing, but this no is incorrect, because even though these two kind of represent different things, the code as we explained it works, right? So this for loop iterates on I, which is a number, while this for loop iterates on the customer dictionary, right, which is the contents inside the customer's dictionary. But even though the for loop's different, the code still works perfectly. So this answer is still wrong. And then D is probably wrong, but we'll read it. No, we cannot get access to the customers by a numerical index, which is wrong because customer, again, is a list containing those dictionaries. And so the correct answer is A, and we will have a look whether that's right. Boom. And so, yeah, let's move on to the next one. Hi, everyone. This is question 11 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. And this question gives us a new function. So we'll have a look at this. The function is called getCustomerTypeCounts, and the input is customers. Now, if you remember from previous questions, customers is a list of dictionaries, right? It is all the dictionaries. And these dictionaries, bad curly braces, ... And these dictionaries represent one customer. One customer, and the attributes inside the dictionaries, or keys and key value pairs inside the dictionaries, will represent the attributes of that customer. And so customers is a list containing customers. Type counts is initialized when the function is called. At the start, type counts is initialized as an empty dictionary, and then we iterate through the customer's list. And so customer is going to be representing each of the dictionaries. For every iteration, it will move on to the next. And so for customer in customers, if customer.type is not in type counts, and so it's saying if the customer.type is not a key already within the type counts dictionary, right? This is what it's saying. Then initialize a key, a customer.type key within the type counts dictionary as 0. And then increment the value within that customer.type key within the type counts dictionary, increment the value by 1. And so if it doesn't exist, initialize to 0 first, and then increment by 1. Now, if it already exists in type counts, if customers.type already is in type counts, so if it already exists, then it will skip over this if statement and just increment by 1. And so it seems like type counts is a dictionary containing all the different types. And then it's basically key is the type for each customer, and then the value is how many of those types exist. So it's basically counting. And then the answer choices, or the question seems like it's asking what code can replace the original code. And so again, we are given this like replacement thing. And so let's use the same strategy, which is process by elimination. The first difference that I see is this, right? Oops, this right here, this, oh, whoops, and this right here. Oops. And then, so that's the first kind of difference that I see. And then the second difference that I see is this. So the plus one is the thing that I see. These two don't have the plus ones, right? And then the other things seem the same as the above code. So these two, type counts equals dictionary is the same. For customer and customers is the same. And then it seems like the if logic is the different things within this. And so instead of the if and else, or instead of the normal if and then the incrementing, we are given a ternary operator, which is in one line, which is an if and else statement in one line. And so let's have a look at A and see if, if we can make any progress in eliminating some answer choices. And so A says, If customer.type is not in type counts, which is identical to the if statement up here, if that is the case, then we assign 0 to type counts, 0 to the key at customer.type for in the type counts dictionary. So we assign 0 to whatever this is. Otherwise, else we assign type counts to type counts customer.type to type counts customer.type. So otherwise, it seems like we're not doing anything here. And that kind of raises a red flag for me because no matter if the if statement is executed or not, remember, we always incremented the value by 1 so that we're actually counting the thing. And so this kind of seems like the wrong option. It seems like assigning 0 to type counts to customer.type is correct. So this logic seems kind of identical to this, right? If this conditional, then this. This is the same as this. So this conditional, it's going to do this, and this seems correct, but it seems like it is just assigning the same value to the same value. So it's not really incrementing by 1, it's keeping the same value. So it seems like A is actually wrong. And so it seems like whatever doesn't have the +1 is going to be wrong. So I feel like B is going to be wrong as well, right? Because it doesn't have the +1. Okay. And then so we have an option for C or D. Now, the only difference between C or D is it both has +1s, which is the same thing, but it's the 1 and the 0. And because A had the 0, and this logic is basically the same thing as this, because A had 0, I think D might be the intuitive answer to go to straight away. But there's something that is kind of important to note in this, which is that because it's a ternary operator, it won't be executing two operations, right? It won't be executing two operations, which is first initializing it as 0 and then adding 1, right? If it doesn't exist, it's just going to be executing whatever is in here, right? Whatever is in here, and then it's not going to be incrementing by 1. So even if 0 is assigned to type counts customer.type, which is the right thing to do, if customer.type is not in type counts, it doesn't have the next line of logic that says increment the type counts by 1 after setting it to 0, which is what we did right here. Set it to 0, right? And then increment it by 1, which we didn't do that in D. And even though this seems up to this logic right here, up to this might be correct, we only execute this if it already exists. And so it seems like we have a bit of a shift in logic, and D might not be the best answer. And C, what it does, for answer C, what it seems like it does is it already sets it as 1. It already sets it as 1, so that if it doesn't exist, it actually sets it as 1. So if customer.type is not in type counts once, instead of setting it as 0 and then incrementing it by 1, it just already sets it as 1 so that you don't have to increment it. And so C actually seems like a pretty smart way to do things. And then the else logic is exactly the same. Otherwise, if it's already in there, then increment it by 1. And so C actually seems like the good question. This question, I think, is pretty tricky because D might be the intuitive option, but C is actually the correct option. And as you can see, a lot of you guys actually got this question wrong, which I don't blame you at all. This question you have to look at the details when this question a lot more carefully than the other ones. So let's move on. Hey everyone, this is question 12 of Spring 2023 Exam 2. and we got some new code, and so let's explore that. Before we kind of look at the code straight away, we're given that types is a dictionary, and it has the values of this, which is subscribed 6, casual 8, key value, key value. All right, so we import matplotlib for graphing, and then counts is going to be a list comprehension list, right? So for type in types, type is going to be, first, types is a dictionary, right? So we're using a for loop in a dictionary. Type is going to be representing a key in the dictionary. So every iteration, type is going to be representing a key. That's what happens when you do use a for loop in a dictionary. It's only going to give you the keys instead of the entire key value pair. And then it's saying for type in types, store types type. So store whatever value is stored inside types type, which this basically gets the value of either 6 when the type is subscribed, 8 when the type is casual. It basically stores all the values of within the types dictionary, right? So it's going to contain 6, 8, 4, and 2. And then emphasis is going to be 0.3 if type equals diamond, else 0 for type in type.keys. Okay, so this is a list comprehension and a ternary operator combined together. And so we'll look at the list comprehension first. So for type in types.keys, and so this is interesting because for type in types.keys, this for loop is going to be the exact same as for type in types. Basically, types.keys is going to generate a list containing all the keys within types, and then it's going to iterate through, and then type is going to be representing a key within that dictionary, which was exactly the case here. And so type represented the key inside a dictionary. For this for loop, it's the same case. And so type represents a key. And then, so for type and type keys, 0.3 if type equals diamond, else 0. So if type equals diamond, you assign 0.3 in the value of within the list. Otherwise, you store 0. And so it seems like what emphasis is going to be is it's going to be 0, 0, 0, 0.3. It's going to contain 4 values, and it's going to be either 0 or 0.3. And it seems like on the fourth term in the list is going to be 0.3, which is interesting. And then so plot.py says counts as the first argument, and so the first argument is going to be the sizes, and that is specified by the counts, right? So it's going to be representing how big all these areas are, and then the labels is going to be types.keys, and so since the ordering for this list right here and this list is the same, it's going to be correctly joining together. So casual is going to have the correct count as we've seen right here. And then strangle at 230. This is basically a starting angle is going to be like 230 degrees, and it's basically like orientation of the pie chart, but it has really nothing to do with, like, you can make this anything, and it's just for the orientation and styling kind of thing, so you don't have to worry about that. And then explode equals emphasis. What this does is basically remember 0.3 only applied to diamond, which was on the fourth term. And so what explode does is it basically is going to kind of take out diamond a little bit from the others, because these guys have 0 set to emphasis, while only diamond has 0.3. So it's going to kind of explode out 0.3 for diamond. And this question doesn't seem like it's actually asking any question. It's just telling us a bunch of stuff. But it's probably asking whether this code is valid or not. And because we went through all of this, I think the answer is yes. There we go. Again, this was kind of confusing because like what question is it really asking? So if you got that wrong, then I'm sorry, but yeah, it seems like it's saying whether this code is valid. Hi, this is question 13 of Spring 2023 Exam 2, and we are given a pi plot and the arguments of the pi function to generate the plot above are, and so we're given these four answer choices, and then we basically got to pick one that will generate this pi plot. And so this question kind of relates back to question 12 in that it has the types.keys and stuff, and then it has counts. So let's have a look. This is actually interesting because question 12 is a little harder, I think, than question 13. This is a syntax question for matplotlib, I guess. So let's try to do some process of elimination. So counts is all the same for all four. The only thing that is different is types.keys, types.items, types, and types.values. And so the second argument for matplotlib pi function is going to be representing whatever this is, the labels for the pie chart, right? And so in the last example, we saw that the labels was types.keys, which made the labels only the keys in the types dictionary. It was casual, subscribe, diamond, loyal. But now it actually seems like we're making the labels both the key and the value. So key value pairs is going to be the label of the pie chart. So we know that this is false because A is what we saw in question 12, which is only storing the key as the label. B says types.items. And so this is actually going to be the correct answer because for dictionaries, there are these functions and there's going to be three functions, which is keys, items, and values. And so values is going to represent all the values within the dictionary. Keys is going to represent all the keys inside that dictionary. Items is going to get both of the things. And so this is going to be the correct answer. This is the wrong answer. And this is going to be the wrong answer because this gets the entire dictionary. And so let's have a look at checking our answer. Is B correct? Can I select it? And why isn't this submitting? And B is going to be correct. And so this was some mixed answers here, but this is, again, I think a trick question. You have to look at the label actually carefully. But yeah. All right. Well